Hi, artists and art lovers. Good morning. We are Princeton Makes podcast, and again we are recording from our beautiful space at Princeton Makes. And I'm Zohar Lavi-Hasson, your host, and today I am hosting RD. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Before we start, let's explain what is Princeton Makes. Maybe you want to explain for a change instead of me.
Sure. So Princeton Makes is an artist collaborative. We have a bunch of artists that work in our studio and outside of our studio, and we all like to get together and plan events and hang out and inspire each other.
So RD is the artist of the month here in Princeton Makes in January. And that means that she has lovely, lovely astronauts walking around the window. It's very, very cute. You should come and check it out. And she's going to have an artist talk. We'll talk about when. And she's doing this podcast. And what else does it mean?
It means that I get to tell everybody that I'm Artist of the Month.
All right. And you tell everybody. And you feel warm and fuzzy and loved.
Yes, I do.
Great. So can you describe briefly what kind of work you make?
So I'm kind of an everything artist. And for the past few years, I've explored what exactly that means to me. So I've done pretty much every type of art you could think of. I've done sculpture, clay, tiny felt animals.
Oh, yeah.
Those have been fun. But recently, I've been more digital. And so I would just describe myself as a graphic designer and illustrator.
Okay.
And that's where the astronauts come in.
Yeah. So RD is also the graphic designer of Princeton Makes, and that means that we have amazing posters every month, and it's very cool. Can you talk about your process a little bit?
My process is weird because I don't have like a set thing that I like to do as much as I think of something on the fly and decide to draw it. Mm-hmm. So the astronauts were pretty much a happy, I wouldn't say accident. It was just, I was actually working in New York at the time. I was just doodling in a cafe, and I decided to draw an astronaut. And it took me like 2 days to draw this one astronaut. And I decided to start drawing him digitally, and he just became the thing I like to do the most. Mm-hmm. So I think of all my astronauts as the same person.
Oh.
So he's always doing something different.
The first one was on the toilet?
No, the first one was just standing. That was the first standing one.
First one was standing, and then came the one on the toilet.
Yep.
And then there's one with a dog.
There's one with a phone. I did a snowboarder.
Oh, yeah.
And I also did an astronaut riding a tiny robot.
So you do them digitally on your, on what software do you use?
So first I hand draw them, and then I put them through a program called Adobe Fresco.
Okay.
Which, Adobe, if you're listening to this, please put Fresco on your MacBooks. I only have it on my Windows computer.
What?
Mm-hmm.
We'll get it to them.
Hopefully they'll listen to this.
One of the 20 people that will listen will be somebody from All right, so, but you start with hand drawing. Each one of them?
Each one of them.
Oh, cool. And then you send them for prints, and you sell the prints, right?
I do. Actually, I think I've become famous at my CVS because I'm the only one that uses their giant printer. But yesterday I got recognized without having to pick up an astronaut at the cash register. They were like, "You're the astronaut person."
Okay.
Shout out to my fans who buy all my prints and put them on their walls.
Yeah. You have fans, people who just come and collect them?
Mm-hmm. I have a few people who have collected almost entirely the entire collection.
That's very cool. All right, so today we're going to talk a little bit about your journey as an artist, because you did do a lot of things. Let's start when you picked up a pencil or a crayon for the first time.
That's a long time ago. That was like, I would say elementary school. So I lived in Florida, so I was a Florida kid. Mm-hmm. And I just remember I had this one core memory of me talking to one of the teachers at my elementary school and telling them I wanted to be a cartoonist, which meant that they had to put up with a lot of doodling. And so I got in trouble for that sometimes.
What do you mean? So you told them you want to be a cartoonist, and what did they say?
They're like, that's great.
Okay.
And they're like, please stop drawing all over your spelling test.
So they didn't say, wow, you're so creative, keep drawing on your spelling test. Like probably teachers would say today.
Yeah, today
Good
teachers I think would be like, actually, this seems to help you concentrate.
Yeah.
They didn't know that at the time though. Like,
No, they
that
didn't.
came out later that apparently, and all of you people who are listening who might do this and want to tell your teachers that they should do that,
Yeah.
you can concentrate better if you're drawing. So if you draw and your teachers tell you not to, tell them that you're trying to concentrate.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so you were doodling a lot. What did you draw? Astronauts?
I did draw some space people. I don't think I drew astronauts at the time. I think that was a little too high of a level, despite the fact that I loved space and astronauts and science.
Also, that was always a theme. Okay, and then, when did you learn art?
I would say I have to thank my high school art teachers. Because while I was always drawing, I wasn't very good at it. Actually, shout out to also my mom, who never told me I was bad at it. Because I thought I was amazing.
Yeah. That's basic mom skills.
Yeah, basic mom skill. You love this thing, so I'm going to tell you you're great at it.
Yes.
But
also, maybe she saw something that you didn't see.
That's true. Maybe she just really thought that I was going to be amazing.
Yes.
But my high school art teachers were definitely the people who shaped who I was as an artist. I had two high school art teachers. I had Miss Rosa and Miss Anderson. Miss Rosa was my first high school art teacher. She was my 9th grade teacher. And she was a really difficult teacher. Not in the sense of like being a mean teacher or anything like that, but she always pushed her students. So I remember one thing, this one project was a self-portrait. And she made me redraw it, I think, like 8 times, because it just didn't look like me.
Wow.
And anything that didn't look right, she's just like, nope, do it again.
Wow.
Like, I think the first one, she said, look like my twin sister, and I look nothing like my twin sister, especially in high school.
It's so funny.
And so that was a talent, I guess. But like, at the one point, I learned how to draw myself. I now can draw myself really well.
Really? I want to see that.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely do a self-portrait one day.
Yeah.
Then I had Miss Anderson, who was my teacher for 3 years, and she's the real MVP of my portfolio, because she always pushed me to like always try new things and do different things. And she's probably the reason why I like went into different things, because I loved printmaking from her.
Yeah.
I loved learning how to do an ink gel transfer. I pretty much learned a lot of different mediums from her.
Yeah.
And it was so fun.
Okay, and moving on after high school?
After high school, I went to college. So I went to college at University of North Florida for a year. And I was in their drawing and painting department. But I was also taking classes in other things, including a class called Crime in America.
Oh.
And while I always loved art, at one point I almost went into law enforcement.
Really?
That dream lasted like a week.
Okay.
Mostly because I like told my mom I was going to switch to criminal justice and become a cop or something. And she called me back like an hour after I told her that and said, you're going to go to art school instead.
What a mom.
Yep.
That's impressive.
She was like, you're going to school. Find a school that you like.
Yeah. So
yeah.
you went to, so which art school did you end up in?
I'm learning not to do this, but the first time I always do something, I always do the first choice, and then I don't research anything else. So I researched some schools, but then I was like, I'm going to go to the University of the Arts in Philadelphia. And that's the only school I applied to, which meant that if I didn't get in, I was staying in University of North Florida.
Yeah. But you did get in.
I did get in.
That's
I went to that school.
Yeah.
I started my first trimester in illustration, and then I switched my major to interdisciplinary fine art.
Oh.
And the reason I switched my major is the same reason I loved Miss Anderson, is that I felt like I wasn't getting to do everything I wanted to do. And so the interdisciplinary, which was called multidisciplinary at the time, is a program where you have a concentration for painting.
Yeah.
I was painting concentration. And then you tried everything else along with it. So it really gave me like a full set of what I wanted to do, and I
Yeah.
tried everything.
Wow. That's great. And you also stuck with everything because you did felting and you did
I did. I stuck with everything.
Yeah.
I know how to do everything.
That's good. And then, okay, we'll get to you being also an art teacher. But so where were we going after school?
So after school, I left Philly and I moved to New York. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do at the time. I knew I wanted to continue art, so I worked in different places. I tried to be a gallery assistant. I worked in different smaller places. And then I wound up at the Children's Museum of the Arts in New York. And I think that kind of shaped me as a person.
What did you do there? What was your job?
I was called a teaching artist. What that meant was I got to plan tiny projects and then got to teach tiny children all about art and different things.
Did you like that?
I loved it.
Oh, yeah.
It was
How
like
did
my
it
favorite
shape
job.
you? How did it shape you as a person?
It told me what kind of artist I wanted to be. So none of my art, a lot of my art was serious in college. It wasn't very lighthearted, but all of the art that I did after college was always very lighthearted.
Yeah.
So, well, all my art during the Children's Museum was marketed to children. So I went to the Children's Museum of the Arts, decided I wanted to teach, got my teaching degree at SVA. I had a lot of fun with my classmates. We were a very small group. It was a one-year program. You learn at night.
Oh.
So I teach during the day, like immediately, like after only like a week or two. They know what classes you're going to be put in, and they throw you into the school system, and they teach you during the time that you're taking these classes.
Yeah. You got your teaching certificate, and then what do you do?
I was a substitute in New York for a while, and then I did like one other job. Then I wound up in Princeton. So shout out to my Princeton charter school peeps. I love you all.
So you found a job and then you moved to Princeton? Or
Yep.
how did it
I literally just moved. I was like, oh, I'm done. I do that a lot. I spontaneously move places.
So, but you found a job first? Okay. So how long were you teaching there?
I taught there for 5 years. I still do a graphic design class there. They're doing really well.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of my students.
Cool. How was it to teach there?
I loved it. It's the best. It's the best school, I think, in the world.
Yeah. And yeah, in order to be an art teacher, I guess you need to know a lot of like kind of art making, which was your route all the way.
Yeah, that's where the interdisciplinary came really into play.
So what were some like struggles in teaching there? Being a teacher is not easy.
Being a teacher is not easy. I think the biggest challenge for me as a teacher was the amount of projects I had to come up with. Because you can't teach a kindergartner the same thing you teach 8th grade. No. So
and every week you have to come up with a new project for kindergarten.
Every few weeks.
And unlike math, it's not like exactly the same thing every year. Right?
No, I can't just look in a book and follow the chapters. I have to actually come up with different things each time, and I have to come up with things that might not work at the time.
Yes.
So always changing. And that's mostly outside of the classroom. So inside the classroom, I think everything worked out really well.
I know your students love you. Sometimes they come here and they're like, oh, RD.
Oh, I love that. There's a lot of grading to do, obviously. That can sometimes be hard, especially with art, because art can't really be graded because they're all at different levels.
Yes.
And they all have different interests.
That is always weird that art teacher grade at all.
Yeah.
I mean, if you show up to class and you're doing something, you get an A.
Yeah, I think that's usually how I thought of it too.
Okay.
That it was, you weren't just sitting there and not doing anything. You actually made something today.
Yeah, even if you doodled,
Yeah.
that's art. And who are we to judge it?
I definitely had a thing where you had to be doing something in my class.
Yeah.
But you could argue with me about whether the thing you're doing should be the project or not.
Okay.
So if you're like, I really don't feel like drawing faces today, can I draw myself differently? If you had a good enough argument, I'd probably let you do it.
Yeah. What are the ages that you taught?
I taught kindergarten through 8th grade, so a very large range.
Everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. And then you stopped teaching art there, and why did you stop?
I found that it was difficult for me to focus on the art outside of the classroom when I was focusing so much on the inside of the classroom.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I did a lot of art outside of the classroom until I met Jim and came to Princeton Makes.
Yeah, tell us about that.
So that was funny. So there's a Color Me Mine.
Yes.
It's a pottery painting thing that is next door to us. So I was there during the pandemic. I was painting with a friend of mine.
Oh.
I was talking about how I wanted to find a place that I could do art and meet people. The people there, Crystal, was there talking to us and said, oh, there's a place next door that is for artists that might be opening.
Oh my
You should
God.
go talk to them.
Wow.
I think he's in there right now. And it wasn't even open yet. It's literally a desk.
That's amazing. That she heard you.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, that's shout out
And
to
that
Crystal.
he was there. So I went next door and I knocked on the door. I was super nervous. I was like, hi, I'm RD. I want to be here. Do you have any openings? He's like, I actually have the last opening for our studios.
Wow.
And so I got it. I was like, I don't want it. Tell me what I need to do. So that's how I started here. I waited for him to open up everything and then just came and moved in.
That's amazing. So how is your experience here? Do you make a lot of art?
I make a ton of art. I feel so much better now. I love coming in here. I love coming in here and not doing anything. This is just a space that I consider a little bit of home.
Yeah. Some hugs.
Yep, a lot of hugs.
So now you're here in Princeton Makes, and how is your art making developing from here? Because when I came here, first time I was in this store, you were sitting in your studio. I came with my daughter, and she was like, I want a dog, felt dog. So we commissioned you to make one.
Oh yeah, that's right. I started doing sculpture, and then I moved into felting. Because again, nothing of my art after my college experience has been serious. So I started making felt animals, and especially felt animals also having silly things like owls wearing shoes. And I did a lot of commissions of little felt things.
Yeah. And you did the owls for a while?
I did the owls, I painted for a while.
Yeah.
But everything I was doing wasn't fast enough for me. I asked my mom for a tablet for my birthday. Because even when you're an adult, you ask your mom for things.
Yes, for sure.
And she bought me this Wacom tablet, which is an amazing thing.
It's amazing.
I hook it up to my computer and I started just drawing everything digitally.
So you use a pen on it?
I use a pen
just
on
to
it.
Explain. It's very good, like a special pen. And also it makes all your lines smooth.
It makes all my lines smooth,
So
which is why all
nice.
my astronauts look very clean.
Very nice.
And I think actually it's Princeton Makes' fault that I went into graphic design. Because we needed a new graphic designer and they were like, who wants to do it?
Oh wait, I can tell this story.
Oh yeah,
this
is your
fault.
story.
So I was doing Princeton Makes events, posters, but I'm not a graphic designer. And then one day we talked. I actually insulted you. You were hurt. Because I said that AI is going to take over graphic designing. But I meant bad graphic design. And you were like, wow, you really hurt my feelings because I really want to be a graphic designer. And then I said, hey, if you want to be a graphic designer, you want to take the event calendar design? And you were like, yeah. And since then, you became our graphic designer. And you're doing such an amazing job and much better than mine. So we're all very happy.
Well, thank you.
So now you can tell it from your point of view.
From my point of view, I just remember we had somebody doing the social media work, but they were super busy and they were transitioning out of Princeton Makes. And so Jim, I think at one of the meetings, was like, we need somebody to take over the social media. Mm-hmm. And no one was volunteering. And I thought, as a millennial, maybe that's something I could do.
Yeah.
So I wound up doing social media. I took graphic design from you. And I started doing posters and all of the little things for Instagram.
Yeah.
And my main focus for that was that I wanted all of the posters to reflect the artist. So the first artist talk poster was Elizabeth, and I put all of her little pottery in it. I always ask the artist for all of their work that they want to put on the poster.
Yeah.
And so I started designing it differently for each one. Decided I wanted to do graphic design, but felt like I didn't have a portfolio. Mm-hmm. And so I went to back to school for it.
All right.
Yep. So I take night classes where they teach me everything I ever need to know about graphic design. I think it influenced my posters a lot. I think they're a lot simpler and cleaner than they were before.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can see also how you are evolving, and then I'm your fan.
Well, thank you. I make art based off what I like, mostly because I think of myself as a not very serious person, and a lot of it has to do with nostalgia and childhood. When I was a kid, I liked a lot of different things. I liked a lot of cartoons. I still like cartoons. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I ever really grew up.
Yeah.
And I think my art reflects that. When I make art, I only make things that I think I want to make and things I would buy. Mm-hmm. But I also do it because if I could give my art away for free, I would.
Yeah.
Because I just want to share it with other people. Mm-hmm. And I want to make other people happy.
Yeah.
I think that the world is very serious. I think it's too serious, actually. And there's a lot of things that hurt a lot of people. Yeah. And so if my art could take that away for a little bit and make people happy and think of silly things, then I would like that to be something that they do.
That's beautiful. And you say it's come from childhood and nostalgia, that's your inspiration?
Mm-hmm. I think about what would I buy if I was a kid? Mm-hmm. What did I like when I was a child, and what kind of things do children think about?
Yeah.
And they're usually kids have really wild imaginations. Mm-hmm. And I think that actually a lot of my fans are children. They're either children or adults that have childlike nature.
And do you ever feel that there's something wrong with it, that you're doing this silly art and not something else?
No, because I feel like I could be serious, or I wanted to. There's a few projects that are probably going to come back that are more serious. They're always going to have astronauts in them. Ironic. So they are going to still be on the little silly side, but they are going to look more serious.
Yeah.
So look out for that absence and presence astronaut.
All right. So now you are at Princeton Makes, and you are also learning graphic design, and then you will graduate and you will leave us to some very high-paying job.
No, I will not leave you.
Okay.
But I will hopefully have a very high-paying job and continue to expand Princeton Makes repertoire of graphic design.
I hope so. Cool. We're going to move on to our Ask the Artist rapid questions round. Are you ready?
Oh boy, yes.
Oh boy. So the idea is I'm asking questions, everybody else the same questions, and you have to answer in 1 to 2 words. What is your favorite artist?
My favorite artists are Keith Haring and Van Gogh.
What is your favorite material to create in?
Pencil, paint, and digital art.
What is the space that you feel most creative at?
My Princeton Makes studio, which is my living room.
Okay. What music or podcast or nothing you like to listen to when you make art?
Lo-fi and disco house music.
What is your worst artistic nightmare?
Breaking my hands.
Percentage of art making versus admin?
65% art making, 35%?
Are you happy with that?
I'm pretty happy with it.
Okay. In 1 word, how do you feel when you make art?
Calm.
All right, awesome. So RD, we talked a lot, but there's still a lot more to learn about you, and I feel like we just touched a little bit, and there's a lot more to say. So people can come here and listen to your RD talk, which
That's
is
January 20th at 6:30 p.m.
all right. That's your talk, and then people can find you here at Princeton Makes. We are open on Thursday to Sundays between 10 and 6. Of course, RD is not here all the time, but her art is here. Where else? Do you have a website? Do you have Instagram?
I do. I have an Instagram, which is RD Chroma, CHROMA, and I have a website, rmdiamond.com.
We are going to also list this in the episode notes, so you can have a link to RD's work and see what she's talking about, all her cute astronauts. You're welcome to sign up for our newsletter. So on our website, I think there's an option to do that, right? Yes.
Yes, there is.
If you have any questions or notes or concerns, you can email me to princetonmakespodcast@gmail.com. Please rate and share this podcast so it can reach others, maybe inspire them, and maybe it will reach somebody at Adobe and they can help RD. I want to thank also RD, who's our graphic designer, and our theme music is by Renata Pugh. We're located at Princeton Shopping Center. Please come and see us and support your local artists, and please make art and not war. Till next time, be creative.